So, good evening everybody. Okay, well you notice it's getting a lot colder in the mornings now, and one side effect of that is, as we go into winter, is that you can actually start observing a bit earlier. In fact, even before I leave work, I can get a look at the sky now. Have a look at a few things going on. First of all, the sun. Well, there's nothing going on the sun at the moment. No sunspots. The last sort of flurry of sunspots, active region 1029, and a couple of others, they went past, and now we're back to this situation of a blank sun, and that has been blank now for 75% of the days of the year, which is actually a little bit more even than last year, so this is still solar minimum, solar cycle 24 hasn't really picked up yet. But there's other things happening, and there's a couple actually at the moment, this is from yesterday, of coronal holes, which show up in this sort of green light here, which may emit solar wind particles towards the Earth, may not come to anything, but there have been sort of the odd bit of auroras. This was taken in Alaska just last week, so there are things happening, but not really anything much this far south at the moment. So that's the sun and so on. I'm going to look at just the sky. This is the sky looking south. We'll have a little look around, sort of straight above at the moment, Cassiopeia, right up top. This is for here about 9 o'clock in the evening, so when you've finished here, maybe that's what you'll see, or maybe not, because I think the weather's not cooperating tonight. But you've got Cassiopeia, Perseus, Capella is very conspicuous, and you're now getting the constellations Orion, Taurus and so on coming up at a reasonable time of the evening. That have been sort of fairly early morning objects. We are losing Jupiter gradually. It's early evening and sort of drifting away moving towards the sun, so we won't see much more of Jupiter for a while. But I'm told that when it comes back next year, it'll be higher up and we'll get better pictures that we've been able to get this year. Uranus is still there. Uranus is quite conveniently placed. If you look at the sort of the bottom two stars here of the great square of Pegasus, it forms sort of a slightly longer than equilateral triangle with Uranus, so you can find it quite easily there. It's what you're going to look for. Just looking north, Ursa Major, Plough, still fairly low in the northern sky in the evenings. Look straight up, there's the pole star, right to the north, and we're just getting a little glimpse there of Mars. Mars is something of a sort of midnight onwards or so object at the moment, and Mars is getting closer to us, so we'll see a picture of Mars a bit later, but Mars will be at opposition at the end of January, and although it won't be as close as it has been the last sort of two oppositions, it will be higher up in the sky, and should get a good view of that. So that's the southern sky. So we've still got the remains of the summer triangle over here, and the Milky Way running right overhead. Actually, we've got a couple of good pictures of that. Just to sort of zoom in on my favourite part of the sky, and you can say that I haven't sort of looked at this. I suppose I sort of first got interested in this around the time of Apollo 8 in 1968, which is a bit of a giveaway my age, but of course that was winter time, and some of the first stars I ever saw was this sort of formation here. We've got Orion, and we're going to look at Orion's belt, the 3 stars across the middle there. If they point upwards to Aldebaran, the orange star in Taurus the Bull, and downwards there to Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. More about Sirius in a moment. Lots of good stuff around Orion as well, if you get a telescope or even a pair of binoculars on it. Particularly this area here, Orion's sword. You have M42 and M43, the Great Nebula in Orion, and then just above that there's a thing called NGC 1981, which is called the Running Man Nebula. That shows up pretty well in photographs too, and we've got one of that coming later. One that I want to actually get this year, I've never actually got a photograph of it before, over here to the right of Orion, or of course the east of Orion, this is marked as NGC 2244. Now NGC 2244 is in fact a star cluster, but the star cluster is right in the middle of a large area of red nebulosity called the Rosette Nebula. And you may have heard of it and seen pictures of it, but I've yet to photograph that one. It's one of my targets for this winter, so I'll be having a go at that. Okay, this is a photograph that I took in Florida 2 years ago. I'll show it to you just because it's only taken with a compact camera, so only the brightest stars really show on it. But up here is Orion, really high in the sky, because we're in central Florida, 28 degrees from the equator here. And you get something that you don't really see, I think, from here, and that's Canis Major with a lot of space around it. Usually the horizon's about here. It actually does look very much like Orion the Hunter and his dog here, and I'll just move on one picture further. Here is the hind legs of the dog, so I've taken the same picture, only I've sort of moved right down a great deal now. So that's the back end of Canis Major there. If I just show you the original, see that's we're down here, this area, the hind legs of the dog, and we're over here now in Florida, and we go right downwards, keep going, down and down, 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 and right there, that star is Canopus, the second brightest star in the sky. You can't see it from here ever, but you go to Florida, it's actually just visible on the southern horizon. That's Canopus, so that's just a little add on there. Got some pictures that people have taken. This is one actually I took when we were at Armagh Planetarium the other weekend. And this is a fisheye view of our observing session. So you can see we've got here the Seven Sisters, M45, and over here Aldebaran, Taurus. We've got here is Auriga with Capella, and up here is Cassiopeia and Perseus. And right here, this is the our Lightbridge telescope. If anyone got a chance to look at that, there's people looking up there. And you can see that this is before we actually managed to get the car park lights turned off. Because the whole thing that beautifully gets up in the Christmas tree. So that's one for me. This is from Martin Campbell from Dungannon, who, as regular visitors will know, does take superb photographs of the deep sky. This is Orion's sword, in essence. So we have M42 here, with its partner M43 just the other side of the dust lane there. And this is the Running Man Nebula NGC 1981 up top there. That's what Orion's sword looks like with a long exposure photograph applied to it. So that's thanks to Martin for that one. It's good as always. And this is a slightly different view of the Seven Sisters. We were looking when we were out in Armagh the other week at the Seven Sisters and trying to count how many we could see, and with the naked eye, actually most people see 6. And some people say they can see 9. 7's a good sort of average. But look at something like this, you can see there's hundreds of them. Not only is there hundreds of them, but there's all this nebulosity as well. That is a real nebula based around that cluster of stars, which comes out very well in this picture from Martin. Planets. I was talking about planets earlier, and Saturn is visible only in the early morning now. You have to get up about sort of 4 o'clock in the morning or after that to see Saturn. It's just moving away from the rising sun, and the rings are still very much edge on. You can start to see now. You've got the gaps there between the planet and the rings, and the Cassini division is just about visible, I think, sort of there-ish. On this photograph from Brian Beasley. Brian took this from just the other morning, November the 30th at 7 o'clock in the morning, from Coleraine direction. And also, we mentioned Mars. Mars is looking pretty good now too. Mars is at opposition at the end of January, as I mentioned, and this is how it looks through Brian's quite powerful telescope. Now you can actually see distinct sort of surface markings there, an excellent polar cap. Again, that was taken 7 o'clock in the morning just a couple of days ago. So that's Mars. Just one other picture here. This was from John McConnell. And here you have, it's a direct hit, this one. He's got the International Space Station and Jupiter there. So it's gone right past. And you have to look very closely at this. But if you see here, there's a much fainter trail behind that one, and that was the Space Shuttle Atlantis, which had just undocked from the space station at that point. So that's a great photograph from John there at that event. Just one other thing I'm going to mention, and that is that in a couple of weeks' time, or less than a couple of weeks' time now, 14th of December, we have the Geminid Meteor Shower. So called because the radiant point is here, just near the star Castor, one of the twins in Gemini, and there will be meteors emanating from this point. Looking in the early hours really of the morning of the 14th, I haven't yet seen any particular predictions as to whether this is a good, bad or indifferent one, but one thing that is very much in our favour on this occasion is the fact that the moon will be a narrow crescent rising only early in the morning anyway. So this sort of area down towards Leo, Orion, Auriga, whatever, is a good sort of place to be pointing the camera for long exposures to capture Geminid meteors.
Could I just add there,
yeah.
there are two different sources giving two slightly different times for maximum. One is midnight and the other is 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But in both cases, it's quite good for us.
Yeah.
So this is probably the best chance you're likely to get to see a really good Geminid show. As you say, there's no moon. The maximum occurs when the radiant's high up. And it is by far the most productive shower in the year. You could see, if you're out in a really dark sky, you could see an average of 2 meteors per minute. So I'd really recommend anybody to have a look at it if it's clear that night.
Absolutely, Terry, and pray for good weather, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's what we really need, isn't it? Okay, that's me. Thank you very much.